It's interesting to see the ongoing attempts by the gaming media to downplay the success of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, right? You constantly see these weird copes online in regards to the game about how it's secretly new Super Mario Bros. 5 and how the aesthetics are the only thing that sets it apart from other Mario games. You hear people complaining about the difficulty and the structure. And everything about it. It's almost like these people don't actually like Mario to begin with. But meanwhile, the same exact people are propping up mediocre games from other developers that are clearly aping off of this formula. Ergo, Astrobot, Like, even if you think Astrobot, oh, well, that's a 3D platformer, you have Super Mario Odyssey to compare it to. Okay? Mario Wonder outdid Astrobot in every way possible, and yet, for whatever reason, the gaming industry tried its best to bury Mario Wonder while elevating Astrobot. And this does need to be talked about because it's safe to say at this point, considering the ongoing downplaying attempts, considering the narratives, considering like the weird things I've heard, it's safe to say that Super Mario Bros. Wonder is talked about. People are playing this game and falling in love with it, and I personally consider it to be my favorite 2D platformer of all time. And yet, so many people are doing everything they can to try to undermine this success story. And this does need to be brought up. This does need to be addressed. This does need to be talked about. The fact that every single Nintendo success story we see gets downplayed like this needs to be pointed out, because the same thing happened with Tears of the Kingdom, the same thing happened with like Fire Emblem Engage, the same thing happened with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is now actually one of my favorite RPGs of the generation, right? All these great games, we're told over and over again by game journals, by YouTubers, by everyone that these games aren't all that special, they're not good, they're not popular, they're not successful, nobody talks about them. And yet, 3 years after launch, well, actually 2.5 years after launch, I put 60 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 3, doing basically everything in the game, and just came away with a really great experience. After so many people tried to gaslight me into thinking the game was a massive step down from 2. Okay? Not only is 3 an improvement over 2, 2 really is a cutting edge RPG in a lot of ways. It stomps the shit out of Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3. Like, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, Baldur's Gate 3 is 100 hours long. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is that without even really trying. It's crazy how much more content there is in Xenoblade compared to Baldur's Gate. And the same is true for Elden Ring. It's crazy just how much character depth, amazing moments, unforgettable antagonists, just great animations and just a fantastic story. What does Baldur's Gate have? Jack shit. It really needs to be understood just how much better Nintendo is than the competition. But we're still in this weird phase where the industry doesn't want to come out and admit it, right? We're still in this weird phase where they have to prop up whatever flavor of the month slop is coming out that year, instead of addressing, the reality that Metroid Dread is a great game, or that Mario Wonder was a great game, like, we've been seeing this forever now, and going into 2025, we're already being hit with a lot of bangers. Donkey Kong Country Returns, Atelier Ubia in March, Xenoblade Chronicles X, big games are coming out in the near future, right? And yet everyone's doing their best to like try and steer your attention away from that, like just being like, no, the Switch 2 is coming out today. Like, it's going to get revealed Thursday. It's like, who are you trying to fool? Like, only someone as autistic as Demish could fall for something like that. Like, who is stupid enough to believe that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be revealed on a Thursday? with no like forewarning or announcement like oh it's gonna happen today. Actually, no. The Nintendo Switch 2 has actually been out for years now, and now we're gonna get the Nintendo Switch 3. Like it's like what? This really needs to be talked about. This really needs to be addressed. This really needs to be discussed. This really needs to be condemned. This obsession with downplaying legitimately great Nintendo games in order to prop up a product that has not reached the market yet does not make sense at all. Mario and Luigi Brothership in a lot of ways was a fantastic game last year, right? I love Brothership. I loved everything about it. I considered it my game of the year, right? It was a fantastic, wonderful game. Gaming YouTubers tried to bury it to try and incentivize Nintendo to announce the Switch 2 sooner. They came out so hard against that game, and it didn't work. The game is becoming super popular, and it's selling well, and people are like talking about it, and it's getting a reputation for being like a stellar Nintendo Switch title. But like, games need to be given their dues. Okay, you can't just say that like, well, I'm more excited for Switch 2, so I can't talk about Super Mario Bros. Wonder. This has been happening for the past 3 years. For the past 3 years, we've been told by YouTubers that like, oh, the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out soon. So surely there's gonna be like a day one update for Tears of the Kingdom to make it a better game, or like this Mario Wonder is a filler title. Oh, this Nintendo Direct will be the last ever. It's like, it really, really needs to stop. It really, really does. And where Mario Wonder is concerned, this was a game that for 2023, it was considered the last Nintendo Switch game. There were legit people saying this would be the last Nintendo Switch game ever unveiled, and obviously that was ridiculous. Because we got lots of reveals after that, including Echoes of Wisdom and Brothership, both of which are huge, huge deals. They really tried to come out and make these statements that Mario Wonder was a disappointment. And it just isn't. When you actually play the game, when you experience the game, when you spend time with the game, you realize this is actually a top tier, amazing platformer. And anybody who was like rallying against it was doing so for the wrong reasons. Like, no, you're not going to make your game look better by attacking Mario Wonder. You're not proving yourself as a true Mario fan by saying this game is childish while worshiping Mario 3. You're not going to gaslight people into thinking this is a rehash of New Super Mario Bros. When there are a bunch of really clear, obvious differences between them. This is the big thing about the New Super Mario Bros. Cope, is that, like, first of all, the New Super Mario Bros. Games are extremely good to begin with. The narrative that like they were bad was pretty much invented out of whole cloth by YouTubers. But the reason that narrative took such hold was this idea that the games were too samey. They're not, but that goes without saying. The New Super Mario Bros. Aesthetic used to be propped up as an example of the fictional Mario mandate. This idea that Nintendo was homogenizing the Mario brand so it's more palatable to the ignorant masses. It was supposed to be this big, big, big thing. Like, New Super Mario Bros. Was supposed to be proof that Nintendo was making Mario generic and uninspired. And Wonder proves that didn't come to pass. This is the same thing that happened with Tears of the Kingdom going into like Echoes of Wisdom, right? The gamers, the YouTubers, they spent so much time shit talking specific aspects of New Super Mario Bros. Specifically the aesthetics and the music and the vibe. So when Wonder like completely twists all that around and introduces like all these cool new concepts that are immediately appealing to fans, suddenly they don't really have an excuse to not like the game anymore. So what you're seeing with Mario Wonder specifically is people trying to pivot to try and find something to complain about when it comes to this game that'll stick. And yeah, you're seeing people try all sorts of things, complaining about the difficulty, complaining about the content, complaining about replaying it, complaining about like finding Wonder Seeds or like It could be anything at all, right? Like, um, like the cope is real, and it really needs to be talked about and addressed more that Mario Wonder is a great game in spite of all this. And in fact, like the fact that people are so religiously intent on pushing this narrative that this game is bad is a really good textbook example as to just how biased the gaming community is against Nintendo and its mainline products. This is absolutely a game that should have been celebrated at launch and should have been considered a Game of the Year contender alongside its sister game, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. But the game was written off and ignored, and the only people talking and playing about it now are the hardcore fans who have been enjoying it for over a year now. And because we've been doing that, the game is going to be remembered and loved for the rest of time. There is nothing you can do to stop the oncoming success of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Okay.